Is Ethereum going for a squeeze? I guess the better question would be is, what side is it going to squeeze? Welcome back, ScalpX Legends. So glad that you're here, and I'm hoping you had a phenomenal week and are preparing for an even better one. Let's dive into these charts together and discuss where this squeeze could potentially go. I want to pull your attention over to a daily time frame, mainly because this is giving me the more clear signs of the direction that it's heading towards. I have a couple different theses, so I'll dive into this as quickly as possible. If we are going to break out to the upside, this red box right over here, this order block needs to be completely violated, meaning we would need to see a God wick through those areas in order for us to have the potential that we're going to be going higher. That being said, if that is the case, then that move to the upside would be an impulse one. So therefore we would have a retracement, and then those longs need to come from those retracements. We can measure those once we hit those realms, and if that were to be the case. And what I'm discussing here is I'm looking at potential ABC corrections, A, B, and C. C where our last move to the downside, which was right around the 2940 benchmark, that being C for that thesis. If that's the case, like I said, we should have an impulse up to the upside right over here. I don't want to take us out of the woods just yet, because I do feel like we are inside of a falling wedge. From an Elliott Wave thesis perspective, it could be considered a contracting triangle. Essentially, you're going to have lower highs and lower lows, creating like this wedge-like formation. If you look at these red trend lines that I have right over here, let's take this one off because this idea is just residue really. Look at these red trend lines. We can see that we're forming this wedge pattern, and essentially we can get down into these levels. We don't know how far it's going to go down. We may get a wick that comes out a little bit lower, but this is what I'm pointing towards. We have a high, then we made a lower low, then made a lower high, then made another lower low. Typically we'll have roughly around 3 lower highs and 3 lower lows before we start to see some form of a breakout. That being said, if we are again inside of that correction where there's an impulse and we're just going to go straight up high, this is going to be your clue. It's breaking through this 35.94 all the way up to 36.78 area, just violating that area completely, using that order block as liquidity, then potentially having a retracement back down into this order block and finding support inside of that area. That would be your clue. That's a clear evident clue saying, yeah, we're breaking through, we're going to be going higher, the correction is now done and over with. If we continue to make these what I would call obvious trend lines and making lower highs, then the potential of coming back down where wave 4 is not complete, because wave 4 is complex. At least the personality of wave 4 is complex. And what I mean by complexity is you can have contracting triangles, you can have barrier triangles, you can have funky patterns where there's a lot of accumulation that's being built in that area. And that's essentially what a contracting triangle is. There's a lot of accumulation going on, a lot of tight wound moves, and it lets loose a little bit and then it gets real tight again. You can see the formations here. Got real tight here, then dumped down. Got real tight, then pumped up. Got kind of tight here, then a massive leg down to the downside. Then we had a little bit more tighter formation, an additional push down, and then push up, right? So we can see that there's tight formation going on here right now. This current candle, as of today, it's pretty darn bullish. It is a bullish candle. We have a lot of support being built on top of this 200. So there's a lot of reasons why it could go up to the upside. I'm on this side saying, I feel like we're going to be hitting all-time high this year. We just need to go a little bit lower. We need to create that liquidity in price action for us to hit those 5K, 7K bands. And that's where I feel like coming out down into these levels, these 2,700, 2767, maybe even the bottom right around 2850s, that would be the sweet spot in my opinion, just because I think there's a lot of imbalance that can be cleared. We did tap into that weekly fair value gap that I've been discussing with you from previous videos, and we did tap into it. That's what this blue box is over here, but there's a little bit more imbalance that can be filled in that area. Look at the wicks altogether. Those wicks will be filled with some type of price action. So that just leads me to believe there's still more room to go down to the downside. What I'm looking for is something like this. If you look at where wave 2 was formed, we had obviously strikes down, push up, lower highs, move to the side a little bit, but we really didn't break any lower lows, right? We were looking for higher lows like this, where it gets real tight. I'm looking for something like that inside of these areas, right? Building that accumulation in these areas, and then we pop just like this, having a popping motion just like so. Now, something that I am considering and looking at to help me with my thesis is looking at USDT. USDT moves in opposite direction of ETH. So there were some levels that we're looking at. I was looking at this move right over here from this low of 3.68 all the way up to where it made a high right around 4.62. I was looking at that as a wave one, because considering that we had a big move down to the downside, then a short-term relief and hitting this impulse right over here, wave one. So that tells me right off the bat, well, we're more likely going to be inside of a wave two. Wave two can have deep retracements, sharp retracements, 0.618, 0.88, all those different levels for sharp retracement. And that's precisely what happened. I'm just measuring out this fib, right, from this wick down to this wick right over here, and we can see that we're coming into sharp levels, literally bouncing right off of that 0.88 level. As a matter of fact, there is a 1 hour imbalance, candle imbalance that sits right inside these zones. It's actually this candle right over here where we are now filling in that imbalance. So that tells me that there's room for USDT to move higher, because it consistently, since March of last year, consistently finds this 3.7, 3.8, 3.9 levels as a main area for support. And I've been preaching this, or at least standing on my soapbox, trying to give you guys a clue. In order for ETH to go higher, we need to break through that 3.73. We need to get down to like 3.5 and even into the 2 percentiles for USDT. And in order for that to happen, we need to create more liquidity. That's the only way price action is going to move at the end of the day. So now that we're bouncing off of this 0.88 level, that gives me an opportunity to look at ETH and say, okay, well, ETH, are you topping out here while USDT is bottoming out at this 0.88 level? If that's not the case, then USDT should completely just sink, just completely die down. We look at a DMI from a volatility and momentum perspective, and there's really no clear direction. It's not bullish dominance and it's not bearish dominance for USDT. As a matter of fact, ADX is just kind of chilling on the very bottom. So there's an impulsive move coming. And this is why I was saying that I feel like there's a squeeze for ETH as far as being inside of a wave four. If this decides to push on up and just pop up, let's go back over to ETH and just look at what that would look like altogether. If USDT is bottoming out in those zones, then all these areas over here are going to be free game. It could potentially go even lower if USDT goes to some of those wave points that I was looking at that sit in the 6 percentiles. We're going to go well below 2,700 if that comes to fruition. I'm showing you the most extreme levels of where USDT can go, because USDT, like ETH, is also inside of a wave four, but we're inside of a bearish impulse wave count. So wave four is obviously going to be higher. It's going to be a bearish retest before it has a massive dump to the downside. Where ETH is the opposite, right? ETH right now is showing a wave four where it's a bullish retest, but we don't know if wave four is complete. Right? We want to see that wave four has an impulse up to the upside, breaking through 35.94, breaking through 3600s altogether, and USDT just completely loses that 3.73, 3.8 level. If that is the case, then yes, ETH is ready. It's bottomed out for the year. We're going much higher, potentially even to all-time highs by summer. And I don't say that to negate. I'm giving you the optimistic side of where we could potentially go. Where I stand firm is saying we should be going a little bit lower, touching into those 2700s, and that's very bullish, right? Touching into 2600s, that's very bullish. If we lose 2700, then the wave count that I'm utilizing becomes invalidated, and we have much, much lower targets that are going to be sub 2K. So it's in our best interest to hold those 2700 levels, to hold these areas all together as we roll into Q1. I feel like by the end of Q1, we should be somewhere inside of these levels. So all in all, what I would be trying to educate you guys as far as positioning wise, right? I'd be positioning myself personally looking for shorts. That's ultimately what I'm looking for right now. I think these dips are intraday and can even be treated as scalps, but the big swing long is going to come from lower levels. So at the current time of this video, where ETH is positioning itself, I'd be looking for those shorts. If we get into 35.94 and then start rejecting off of that order block, that's going to be a clear sign saying, hey, this is where you should start shorting. If you're going to be a little bit more impatient with it, then utilize the lower time frames, such as a 1 hour, a 15-minute, and maybe even a 5-minute to help yourself find those entries. If you struggle with finding order blocks or finding a strategy altogether, keep in mind that we do have our ScalpX Academy that's rolling out in February, where myself and another trader will be teaching you hand in hand on how to identify not only your strategy, but a strategy that makes you profitable. Other than that, if you have any questions for me about these setups, about what's going on in my mind for ETH, feel free to reach out to me in the trading tournament. I'll be discussing other coins such as Solana, Grass, Ordi, and a slew of other coins altogether. Outside of that, hopefully this information serves you well. Have a profitable week. Be safe. I'll catch you soon.